Hey everyone. I thought I'd give my thoughts on Money in the Bank, specifically what I consider a Vince McMahon-like event. Here's why. Here's why, and let me explain. Now, if you think Vince McMahon is going to let Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, even if it's for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, if you think he's going to let that finish out a pay-per-view for the second or third time without a price, then you've got a lot to learn. Now, here's what I mean. There is no doubt that I do agree that the WWE World Heavyweight Championship should always close out a pay-per-view. It's the championship, no matter who holds it. But let's face facts. When you have your... How do I put this? When you have your bread and butter, your face of the company, in one of the hottest programs right now, with one of the most talked about, if not controversial, up-and-comers you've got in your developmental brand, who is the champion of said developmental brand, then you would rather have him in you rather have his champion versus champion match main event and close out the show, would you not? Of course you would. But if you know that your son-in-law, who is basically the COO on screen and maybe even behind the scenes of your company, if you know that the people he's chosen to be in the program for the WWE World title, and that one of his guys is the WWE World Champion, if you know he understands that the WWE World title should be closing out the show, then you've got a problem, right? You've got a bit of a problem because, one, if you're Vince McMahon, you want your franchise player to close it out in this champion versus champion match. But then again, you also understand that people want to see the WWE World Title close out the show, especially considering that the main focus of the event is ladders, Money in the Bank match, and of course the main event. So the reason I say this was sort of a Vince McMahon-like show is because of these reasons. One, there had to be some kind of agreement, maybe this is just me reading too much into it, but there had to be some kind of agreement between Vince McMahon and Triple H. Like, Triple H could have his guys main event the show, close out the show with the ladder match in the WWE World title, which, if Vince had his choice, would have been positioned in the spot that Cena and Owens was in. Hear me out. Now, knowing that if Vince McMahon probably had his way, that would happen, Triple H probably had to make a business decision and make a business deal with Vince McMahon. And that business deal was that in exchange for Triple H's guys, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, to close out the show for the title, which makes it mean more something and shows that the WWE is willing to give the spotlight once again to guys that usually you would give it to if they were main eventing against mega stars like a Randy Orton or even a Brock Lesnar or a John Cena. In exchange for that, basically, Triple H had to agree to the following booking decisions for the Money in the Bank match and the Owens-Cena match. Again, hear me out. Let me explain. You see, in exchange for Rollins and Ambrose to close out the show again, Triple H had to agree to let Cena beat Owens and Sheamus win Money in the Bank. Instead of letting someone like Reigns win it like they wanted it to, or even someone like, say, Neville come out and shock the world, Sheamus, who, yes, is close friends with Triple H, but is mostly a Vince McMahon-like kind of guy, was agreed upon to win the Money in the Bank matchup. And in return, Cena's match with Owens was booked for him to go over, all in agreement, possibly, for Rollins and Ambrose to close out the show. Because, like I said, I believe, in my opinion, had Triple H had his way, not Triple H, but had Vince McMahon had his way throughout the entire show, believe it or not, Cena and Owens would have closed it out, and Rollins and Ambrose would have been where they were. Would have been in the middle spot right after Ryback and Big Show. That's what would have happened. And if you think I'm kidding, hey, that's your opinion, that's your right. But I don't think I'm kidding here. I believe, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that's probably what happened. Because I do agree that as much as I respect Cena as a performer and as a person, I do agree that he should have at least lost twice clean to Owens and not do the same old, oh, Cena loses a match, then beats the guy that beat him the next pay-per-view and maybe even the pay-per-view afterwards. Okay? I do agree that Cena should have lost. I do. And I do agree that someone like Reigns, if not Neville, should have won the Money in the Bank matchup. I really do. But like I said, I truly believe, in my opinion, that the only reason Sheamus went over, which surprised a lot of people, the reason Cena went over, which a lot of people predicted but was hoping not going to be the case, even though sources said creative did not want it to happen, was an exchange, was basically a business exchange between Triple H and Vince McMahon to allow Rollins and Ambrose to close out the show. Now I know some of you might sit back and say, well, they should have done it anyway because they got more story. They've got 3 years of history almost. And I do agree. But Vince McMahon wouldn't see it that way. He would not see it that way. I mean, okay. Let me explain. When Hogan and Rock faced each other at WrestleMania 18, even though it was the first time ever, and it should have main evented and closed out the show, because it was icon versus icon, you know, passing of the torch kind of deal. Did it do it? No. Instead, they went with the decision of Triple H and Y2J. Now that was because Vince McMahon booked it that way, not realizing that Hogan and Rock would steal the show and then the crowd would be dead afterwards, even for his future son-in-law at the time main event match. So, obviously, Triple H knew that the only way you were going to get this crowd re-energized was to basically put the ladder match last. Because let's face it, Vince McMahon, let's be honest, Vince McMahon may say he likes the NXT roster, may be impressed by what he's seen in NXT and who's come out, and may be impressed with who's come out of NXT, but let's be honest, Vince McMahon truly does not see anything in Seth Rollins. He possibly sees something in Dean Ambrose, but he doesn't see something in Seth Rollins, especially as a main event guy. But the only reason, though, he was allowed to main event again against Dean Ambrose was, in my opinion, I believe, because of a business decision made on both ends, a business decision and agreement made on both ends by Vince McMahon and Triple H. That in exchange for Rollins and Ambrose to close out the show, which we all agree should happen anyway, Cena and Owens would be middle and Cena would go over, and in exchange, Sheamus would win Money in the Bank. Now I know some of you might sit there and say, well, you're probably just reading too much into it, Brian. Am I? Am I reading too much into it, guys? Or am I noticing, or do I have a point here? Think about that. Think about that, okay? Think about who's coming back this week, possibly. Think about the decision to let Sheamus win Money in the Bank. Think about what Vince McMahon looks at from a box office standpoint. Think about that. Think about it. Yeah. My point is, it's just my opinion, guys, but I believe that's why Sheamus went over in Money in the Bank and got the briefcase, why Owens lost to Cena, and thus why Ambrose and Rollins got to main event the show, close out the show, because it was a business agreement on both ends. I mean, I'm sure if Triple H had his way, this card structure would have remained the way it was tonight or last night, and the booking decisions, though, would be different. There's no doubt about it. But we do know that if Vince McMahon had total control, that Vince McMahon would have had that ladder match for the title in the middle. We can agree with, or even second to last. We can agree or not. And he would have had Owens and Cena close out the show with Cena going over. So, but that's just my opinion. Overall, though, I thought Money in the Bank was okay. The Divas match, it was alright, it was decent, but obviously I don't know where they're going to go with this with Nikki. I mean, it looks like, just from what I've seen, they might finally have all the Divas go against them eventually. Like, basically, I could see something happening where Paige, maybe tomorrow night, is going to humble herself to the Divas and say, look, I apologize for what I've said out there. You know, I apologize for saying that the ring is my house when it's our house. I shouldn't, basically have Paige kind of, I just think I see Paige humbling herself to the other Divas and saying, look, I was wrong for what I said. I shouldn't alienate you guys. I shouldn't go out there and say that the ring is my house when it's actually our house. And that I'm sorry for everything I've done and I need your help. So I do see that happen. Probably. But I could be wrong. But overall, I thought it was good. It looks like they're going to go towards a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title at Battleground. Probably, I think they're going to have The Miz get the belt, unfortunately. I don't know why, but I think that's the plan, to let Big Show and Ryback, be part of it. Let Ryback hold on to it at least until maybe Battleground, maybe SummerSlam. And then either in a triple threat or maybe even some kind of fatal four-way or one-on-one, drop it to The Miz. I just see that happening. Like I said, the opening match was good. Again, the finish, I know people question it, but I think I have my reasons as to why. The tag team title match I thought was okay. I thought it was good. I like the fact that they put the belt on the Primetime Players, because it looks like, to me, this is just my opinion, I think they're going to split New Day. Or at least they're going to take out maybe one or two members of New Day. And I think that